is going on, everyone? This is the Fantasy Aces podcast. I'm your host, Joe Bevilacqua. With me, we got Sonny Chowdhury and Nathan Holleran. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, fantastic. What a game. What a way to end week 14.
I know. What a Monday night game, and what a way to, get into the playoffs. And you know what? That is why we do many fantasy leagues, because I hedged my risks right there. I won 2 leagues. I lost one, but it's okay. You always have more than one fantasy league just in case you lose. So there's a bright side there. We're going to have a little abbreviated fantasy episode for you guys today. We're going to be getting into the fantasy takeaways and waiver wires for Week 15. And then we're going to be doing a little Week 15 rundown with all our personal leagues, just giving us some advice moving into the last couple weeks of the playoffs. And then at the end, if we have some time, we're going to list some fantasy rookies that we really like right now starting and who are going to be totally awesome in 2021. But just leaving it up there, in the Fantasy Aces Playoff Bowl right now, I'm going into Week 15. We have me at 103 points, Mike at 99 points, Nate with 91 points, and Sonny with 87 points. And he could be much higher, but he decided to have C-Mac on his team, and he's still sticking with that decision. So we'll see how it goes into Week 15. Sonny, how do you feel about your decision still?
I'm just hoping, week 16, hopefully, because I'm assuming we won't play this week, hopefully gets me a 40-pointer, but gets me right back in there. Yeah, I'm not dead yet. I'm close, but I'm not dead yet.
No, not at all, because the rest of your team is doing phenomenal.
Hey, you want to know why, though? Travis Kelce.
That
MVP.
Is true.
MVP.
That is true. But going into news around the league, Deebo Samuel is out for Week 15. That raises Brandon Ayuk's fantasy value. Also, maybe Richie James if you're looking deep into the team. Matthew Stafford is doubtful against the Titans. That would probably raise the running backs for the Lions and their fantasy value. Gardner Minshew will start. Maybe DJ Chark will have some sort of fantasy value coming in next week. And Jalen Hurts is going to start for the Eagles. So, you know what? That's some big fantasy value for Miles Sanders. He opens up the running game. So that's a big, huge opportunity right there as well. So getting into the fantasy takeaways and waiver wire for Week 15, I'm going to hand it off to Sonny. Why don't you list us your waiver wires for Week 15?
Yeah, so I think the number one pickup of the week should actually be Jeff Wilson Jr. So I actually did happen to pick up, thankfully, Jeff Wilson Jr. last week in my league that I had Mostert in. But, now with Mostert questionable, still dealing with that ankle injury, he's getting MRI. So, again, we don't know. His status is up in the air. But the last time Jeff Wilson played without Raheem Mostert was against the Patriots. He had 112 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, even if Mostert's active, Jeff Wilson has been operating as a goal line back. And now they can have a phenomenal matchup against a terrible Dallas run defense. So with Mostert, he's like a low-end flex. But if Mostert were to miss, he's a top 12, top 10 running back and an amazing running offense behind Kyle Shanahan. So, he's number one on the list. Next up, is actually Lynn Bowden Jr. And it's kind of cheating because he's a running back and receiver. But I think most platforms allow him to be put into both. But, they got injuries to Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Jakeem Grant, and Mike Gesicki. He's the only guy left in that offense. So, he's a running back and receiver. He's even taking snaps at quarterback. And just last week, he had 7 catches for 82 yards. So, he's the only show in town. So, especially in PPR leagues, I think he'll provide a safe floor. And, just super versatile. And then the other guy I want to mention is Gus Edwards. So, start off the 3-man committee, but I think last night we saw it's just Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And now they have an amazing matchup against the Jaguars. And even last night, he had 49 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I like him better in non-PPR, but I still think he'll have a safe floor in PPR formats. And the way the offense looks, it's a deadly run offense. And I really think you can roll out both Dobbins and Edwards this coming week.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Wilson's a very good pick. That backfield's kind of struggling right now, except for Wilson, so I really like that pick. Leading it to Nate, you are wide receivers. Why don't you give us your wide receivers for Week 15?
Of course. So, despite the Falcons struggling this year and, Julio Jones not having the year I wanted him to have, especially where I drafted him in, Russell Gage has been pretty good, back-to-back 82-yard games. People like that. He's still on the fantasy, not fantasy. Well, yeah, fantasy waiver wire for wide receivers, probably the top. I think he's actually behind Tyler Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, but he's right up there. 5 of 7 targets, 82 yards. Again, back-to-back games, and with Julio missing some time, his targets should go up significantly. Expect that to happen. And then Gabriel Davis, he didn't have the best of games coming into this past week 14. 3 of 8 targets for 9 yards. He did have a touchdown in the Bills' 26-15 win over the Steelers. And again, the whole Steelers, the big comment going around, the Steelers overrated. Are they really what their record is? The Bills kind of proved that when they faced a dominant Bills team who had the hot hand heading into that game. And despite Gabriel Davis not having the best of games, he's still a very valuable waiver wire pickup because Josh Allen could have hit him for a very long touchdown during that game. So that could have been increasing of his yards and added touchdown to it. He could definitely, in my opinion, still be a very good flex position if you needed a wide receiver if you're struggling with injuries.
Yeah, well, I gotta say one thing. John Brown actually did return, so would you still be interested if he plays this week, or are you off Gabriel Davis?
I would still be interested in Gabriel Davis. I think he'll still find his motion into that offense. I think they understand how talented he is, and John Brown, what you just said, I think will also get, the share of what they're doing because we all know that backfield isn't really getting anything. What's been going on in Buffalo, so I can just tell you right now that those wide receivers are going to get way more looks, and Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, it's not working out up there in Buffalo. So. And then Tyron Johnson, I like Tyron. Caught 6 of 7 targets for 55 yards and a touchdown, and the Chargers went over Atlanta. So I'm going with different teams' wide receivers.
Those are outliers. I feel like they're outliers. When you play against the Falcons, wide receivers are outliers.
And we also got to remember Keenan Allen and Mike Williams left, and they are practicing. So
this guy is more so looking. Keep an eye out. Look at it because they say if Mike Williams doesn't return, there's a possibility this guy could get more snaps. Again, you said Keenan Allen practicing. I mean, they're going to want to save their best wide receivers for the long haul, of course. And, depending on what's going on this season, they're not making playoffs. So, it wouldn't be a shame to start or have in the flex Tyron Johnson for my waiver wire pickup, and that would be them for week 15.
Right. Sounds good. All right, so I am the waiver wires for a quarterback, and no particular order. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. He's only rostered in 40% of leagues, and he only starts in 15% of leagues. So more for the starting position, you might want to start him. The only downside is we know his fantasy floor. We know how bad it can get if it does go wrong. There really is no – it's really high or low. There's no consistency, and there's no average for him, but recently, the guy's been off the charts. The only thing that's really scaring me and might scare some viewers is he's playing against the Giants. But, I mean, the Giants particularly did not play that well against the Cardinals offense. So we'll see how that goes. And then I have
he lit up the Ravens, too. I mean, he lit up the Ravens last night in a tough matchup. So
that is true. That is very true as well.
Yeah.
And then I have Mitchell Trubisky. It's kind of funny because I was making fun of him a couple weeks ago in our group chat for fantasy. But yeah, he's rostered in 13% of leagues. He had a very fair performance against the Texans with 25 points, and now he's going to be going against the Vikings defense, which we know struggles against fantasy quarterbacks. So that's also a pretty good proposition to have. And then my third guy. I mean, if you really want to get risky, Phillip Rivers. I mean, he's against Houston, and he's owned in 32% of the leagues. He's more of a consistent guy. He's the opposite of Baker Mayfield for me. He's more of like, I'll get you 18, 19 points around that mark. There's really not a floor or ceiling with him. But if you want a safe matchup, Phillip Rivers against Houston Texans, and that's my waiver wires. Are there any other waiver wires you guys want to discuss?
I like that.
And then we got to also. What about Jalen Hurts? I was gonna say one more thing. Any interest in him against Arizona? I'd be all in on that.
I'm still
I'm gonna,
hesitant
you know what?
for Nate.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh
I'm
no, that's
hesitant.
very understandable. Oh yeah, I just because everyone's gonna be like, well, they faced the Taysom Hill ran offense, and it's kind of like, well, what happens if Drew Brees was in there? But again, he wasn't facing Taysom Hill; he was facing that defense, who was
Yeah,
what number one in the league,
they
and
are.
what
They
they
are.
had, what they were working with. So they're taking on. I think it's in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. They're taking on Arizona in Arizona. I mean, it's not like there's gonna be
Yeah.
fans screaming everywhere, but it's still home field. It's that energy, and like Jalen being on the road starting for the first time. That's crazy. Like that's
Yeah.
exciting. You got Jalen Hurts and you got Kyler Murray going against each other. That's fun. That's gonna be fun to
Yeah,
watch.
former Oklahoma QBs. And I mean,
Mhm.
again, so here's the other thing. I think Mitch is actually a great option. I can't believe I'm saying that. But I personally would take Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts over Mitch just because I want Jalen Hurts in my playoffs. And Baker Mayfield would be number one on the list. I agree with that.
Oh yeah.
I want to do one stat. I was texting Joe about this last night, actually. If you erase that 3-game stretch where he was in terrible weather since OBJ left, first game, 40.78 points. Next game, Jacksonville, 22.42 points. Tennessee, 36.46, and then last night, 34.02. I mean, those numbers are phenomenal. Again, he had a tough matchup last night, so I think he should be fine against the Giants. And then he's got the Jets next weekend, so he could be a league winner. But and then let's touch up on the tight ends real quick. So my number one guy, only if Kyle Rudolph, if I know that he's out, would be Irv Smith Jr., just because the talent is like phenomenal. I mean, he led the Vikings in receiving yards. He had 63 yards and a touchdown. But if you want to play it safe, you can take Cole Kmet. He's taking over, replacing Jimmy Graham as the lead tight end in that offense. So those are two guys that you might want to look at.
Yep. I would have to agree with that. I was looking at Irv Smith
Yeah.
Jr. and his performance from last week.
Komet's been
So
like
that was,
I would have to say Komet's been like at least pretty solid. Not the
he
greatest, but
has
he's been pretty solid.
Yeah.
I was actually, I mean, I don't know if we have enough time, but I was going to talk about him for a rookie performance leading up into next year. I think he's going to be a great addition. Looking at cap
Mhm.
space wise, they're going to get rid of Jimmy G, and Cole Kmet's going to be the dude. And we remember how many tight ends the Bears had at the beginning of the offseason.
Yep.
Now look who's standing. Kmet's going to be a great
Wow.
addition in my mind.
Who would have
So
thought too, out of all those tight ends?
I know exactly.
That's a good sign though, especially if you're going against Jimmy G.
Yeah. And for our second topic of tonight, we're going to be doing a Week 15 rundown. Personally, we're just going to be talking about our leagues and who we want to start, who we're afraid of, because you guys probably have the same exact problems that we do, but we're going to discuss them like we usually do. And I am going to bring up my situation going into Week 15 for my dynasty team. And these are all players that people really honestly would have problems with right now. And I'll give you my backs because these backs are waiver wire backs like all the time. Right now, I have Nyheim Hines, Gus Edwards, Wayne Gallman, DeAndre Swift.
Oh man!
So with those
definitely
four backs,
keep Swift. Yeah, Swift. Yeah, home
those
run.
four backs start two and sit two. And I'm going to start with Sonny.
Okay, so let me hear that one more time. Let me hear that one.
Nyheim Hines, Gus Edwards, Wayne Gallman, and DeAndre Swift.
Now, I'm personally gonna have to go with Wayne Gallman, DeAndre Swift. I do like Hines though, but I'm gonna go with the lead guys with those two.
Yeah, okay. All right. That's what I have set right now, and that's what I had set for last week that made me win. So I was gonna keep it at that pace. But then Gus Edwards, he scores 18 points. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean it's a good problem to have. I like all those guys, honestly.
Yeah. And Nate, would you have to agree, or would you bump Gus Edwards, Nyheim Hines in that
I mean,
conversation?
I'll be different. I really like DeAndre Swift. I think he's gonna be a phenomenal running back. As years go on, heading to sophomore year. Gus Edwards, what he did, what I think they're figuring it out. In
He's
Baltimore,
a big dude, man. He's a goal line back.
and let's take some pressure off of Lamar Jackson. Let's get these guys running the football a little bit. Spread the field. Here we go. And then I would take Gus Edwards, and I'm going with Wayne Gallman. I really like Wayne Gallman. I understand since he versed Philly, his stats going down just a little bit, but consider the teams he's playing and the offensive line he's dealing with. Wayne Gallman has just been insane ever since Saquon missing. So I would go Wayne Gallman and Gus Edwards.
All right, sounds good. And I know this may sound stupid, but here's another decision: Kiki or Godwin. Kiki or Godwin, because
No,
Godwin had
honestly, I don't
Yeah.
think it's stupid. I think it's definitely something to think
Yeah.
about, though.
I
But
mean,
Godwin's going
I
against the
like
Falcons.
Kiki, but I'm gonna have. I can't bench. I couldn't forgive myself if I benched Godwin for Kiki.
Yeah.
But I do like both guys, though. If that's saying
It's like you keep Godwin because he's one of the most proven wide receivers, but then you have Kiki who isn't suffering from what Godwin's suffering.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a
Well, it's talent with Godwin, and then
Yeah.
it's share volume with Kiki, and that's what
Yeah.
I'm up against right
Well,
now.
you got to also imagine that with Ronald Jones potentially missing, they might have to lean on the pass game a lot more. So, that could be more targets for Godwin on top of that.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned Kiki because I don't know how you guys feel, but again, if Kiki and Chad Hansen, actually, we didn't even talk about those guys for the waivers. I like both those Texans guys. I mean, they're facing the Colts, who they both demolished. They both went over 100 yards last time. So I'm hoping to, we'll see tomorrow when I wake up, but I put in a claim for Chad Hansen, and I'm really worried about J.D. McKissick if Alex Smith isn't the quarterback. So if I have Dwayne Haskins at quarterback in a deep 14-team league, would you guys have J.D. McKissick or Chad Hansen at the flex in a PPR league?
oh.
I mean, honestly,
I
wouldn't be based on Brandon Cook and his injury because
Well, here's the thing. He had over 100 yards with Brandon Cooks against the Colts. And then without Brandon Cooks, he still had 7 receptions, over 50 yards. So it seems like he's unfazed by it.
I don't know. I really do like because Antonio Gibson's hurt.
Yeah.
He's hurt.
And then we don't know what Dwayne Haskins is going to do. So, are you going to get empty touches with McKissick? If he's not getting the reception.
Right. Are you getting empty touches? Do they want, Dwayne Haskins to, try to get back on that grind? The reason why they drafted him. I mean, I would personally go with J.D. McKissick because of, Antonio Gibson he's going to miss significant, at least the rest of the season, I'm assuming.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I would go with JD. He has proven during games where when he gets going, he's hard to stop. So that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
It's a hard one though.
I mean, I'm optimistic. If Alex Smith is playing, I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. I will roll out J.D. McKissick again. It's just with him not being there, I don't know how much Haskins can be checking down to him. So
right,
I'll go with Chad. I think I'm going to go with Chad just because the Colts defense is allowing a lot of points recently, and that could be another shootout. So I might go with the higher scoring game.
I thought Xavier Rhodes also went down with an injury. I think he should play, but I mean, if he's banged up, that's a huge bonus. So it's tough.
It's a good, huge, sad bonus.
Yeah.
Nate, do you have any implications with your roster leading into fantasy football?
I think the only guy that's on my personal roster that I was looking at, I mean, besides Julio Jones, he's injured. It's just been a whole story. I think what surprised me the most on my roster is not just Wayne Gallman, but Devontae Parker. I really like Devontae Parker, but now he is questionable. But then I have either him or I have either to start Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. The Steelers are phonies. And I don't want anybody to disagree with me because it's nothing but true facts. They have faced the easiest teams, the most injured teams, and they go against NFC East Washington football team, and then they go against and then they get what?
But Deontay Johnson is not a phony. The Steelers
He is not a phony.
But
I would say the team as a whole is not what their record opposes, in my opinion. But Deontay Johnson, their wide receivers, Claypool, great players. Juju is obviously a very talented wide receiver, but Deontay Johnson had 8 points, and Devontae Parker didn't do too swell himself. So, I mean, I'm stuck between starting Devontae and Deontay.
I'm expecting Devontae Parker to miss, so that decision might be a little easier for you. And I mean, the other thing is you can see, how bad the offense looked when they decided to bench Deontay Johnson. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, the Steelers realize if they really want to win games, you got to play your best players. And me too. I have a lot of shares of Deontay Johnson, and I'm nervous, but I am going to roll him out. Unless you have a Terry McLaurin or someone like that, that's different.
Absolutely. I was just sitting there. I was like, man, Deontay, dude, come on. And I was like, don't bench him. Don't do that.
I mean, I almost had a heart attack.
I think it's personally Big Ben more than anybody. I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I mean,
think he's a
I would
great.
trust. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a great quarterback. I really do. I think he is a Hall of Fame, statue. But like, I don't know. I just think it's time to move on from Big Ben because these wide receivers are movable and Ben's not.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. All right, guys, before we close it out, I want you two to list one rookie that you are really excited about for the last couple weeks and for the 2021 season. So give me a rookie that clearly is not a rookie anymore. We're going to start off with Sonny.
Oh my! I mean, you mentioned him earlier. It's Brandon Ayuk. I mean, he does
Ah,
not get
dang
talked
it.
about. He does not get talked about enough. I mean, him and Justin Jefferson are the only rookie receivers that I'm confidently rolling out there, especially in the playoffs. If you look at the last 5 active games, I'm just gonna read them real quick. 115 yards, 91 yards and a touchdown, 75 yards and a touchdown, 95 yards and a touchdown, and 119 yards. Those are his last 5 active games. Roll him out. He's a league winner, and I have no shares of him right now, but I will be heavily targeting him next season.
Yeah, I
Oh,
would have to agree
yes.
with that. Nick
Huge.
Mullins loves him too. He loves
I
Ayuk.
mean, the manufactured touches, he's matchup proof. Any matchup, I mean,
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nate, give me a rookie that's not so much a rookie anymore.
All right. So he took my pick, but that was like the most obvious pick because he's been insane this year. I love that pick. I'm going to go different. I'm going to go with my NFC East rival. I think Antonio Gibson, for what he was put into this season with the football team, with the name changing, with different quarterbacks, offensive line falling, just being in the NFC East as a whole is very nightmarish. So, Antonio Gibson, for me personally, I mean, when he has 659 yards, 11 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, so it's kind of like not horrible, not the greatest, but not horrible. And I can only see those numbers going up. I really do for Antonio Gibson. But I have one more I would like to share, one real quick,
Do it.
and it's Chase Claypool. He wasn't talked about, in my opinion, enough coming into the draft. As much as, of course, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, yada, yada. I mean, the guy's been phenomenal. I mean, if not phenomenal, he's been pretty dang good. He's overall like a really smooth, 6'4", 238. That's huge. Um, when the guy gets going, when Claypool gets going, he's hard to beat, and we've seen that in games this year. So, I mean, I went with 2 this time, so I cheated.
Yeah, that's fine, man. That's fine. I'll list one before we close out, and it's gonna be Cam Akers. This guy beat out Darnell Henderson. Oh, my bad. My mic fell out. This guy beat out Darnell Henderson and
He was too
Brown.
excited.
And I was way too excited. And this guy's putting up Madden numbers. I'll just look at my phone and be like, he has like 120 yards right now rushing the ball. I mean, this guy's absolutely insane. He had to come from being third in the depth chart. So I'm going to give it to my guy, Cam Akers. He's doing a phenomenal job, and I don't think there's going to be a sophomore slump with this guy. So I think he's doing really great. But that is all that we have for you guys today. Listen to us on Facebook and YouTube. Also follow us on Inside the Hashes, and check out our Insta and Twitter accounts at Inside the Hashes. Also check out our other podcasts, Aired Out and RPO, on the website. And we will see you guys next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Good luck in the playoffs, and stay safe out there.
Get that dub.
Yeah, go Birds.